an hour.
Okay, now see, that right there, that's enough to be a thing that make you go, that doesn't seem quite right.
So the police officers look around. Some things they notice. The only thing that they saw as far, and we need to establish this, in the police report, the only thing they list seeing is a few empty beer cans. Let's repeat that. A few. Now, I do not know in 1955 what constitutes a few empty beer cans. I don't know if it's if it's 5 beer cans. Maybe it's 10.
But to reiterate what I just said, even if it was 20, the police didn't throw them in the drunk tank to sober up.
Right.
Right. I want it said because, well, we'll get to that. In fact, let's go from here to the skeptical take on this because we're at that point. The skeptical take is they were all drunk.
Even the kids?
Well, except the kids. They were all drunk, except minus the kids. And the culprits were great horned owls. That it's great horned owls that are causing all this ruckus. Now, I don't know how they're drunk because even if there were, let's say 20 cans, that's a few, 20 cans between 7 adults. That's not enough. That's not enough to get anybody drunk. Not even me, and I'm a lightweight. I might be tipsy, but I wouldn't be drunk. Also, drunk on beer does not tend to hallucinate, okay? The idea of guys will talk about how they brought home a girl that's not as attractive as they normally would have gone out with because they were drunk and had on beer goggles. But that's crap because you can't drink someone pretty. It doesn't happen. What happens is you get drunk enough and your inhibitions go down, and maybe you wouldn't find the woman attractive if you were completely sober, but you're not. So you kind of go, you know what? You're here, I'm here, let's make something happen. That's beer goggles, but it has nothing to do with how she looks at that time. It has to do with how desperate you are and how beer has let you be that desperate. So, the skeptics will tell you that they're drunk and they're fighting owls. My response to that is, okay, don't buy that.
You don't care for that. You don't care for that theory, I take it.
At all. One, we're dealing with rural Kentuckians. I think they've seen an owl before. They might have even seen a great horned one. But even if they haven't, I'm pretty sure they've seen an owl. Maybe 2. They could probably extrapolate from the owls they've seen to a great horned owl and go, oh my God, it's an owl.
It's possible.
Also, they all make the point that they shine like they're covered like a radium watch. They're all glowing, these things, and they all mention how shooting them, it goes plink, plink. Now, I have never shot an owl, but I imagine when you shoot one, it doesn't go plink, plink.
I would think more of screeching and howling and hooting.
Also, the one thing is that these creatures, the Kelly Hopkinsville goblins, they were persistent. They wanted to look at the people in the house, but they weren't violent. They never once tried to assault these people. The only assault that happened is one reaching towards Billy's hair, and we don't know why it did it because it never completed the.
Yeah.
These creatures were not in any way violent. They just kept coming and were very persistent, and nothing would dissuade them. Something like if a person had done this and you shot them, it would be clearly murder on your part. Mm-hmm. Because they weren't even trying to go in the home. So that's the skeptical take, is this is all owls and drunks.
Owls and drunks.
And again, but for that to be the case, you also have to...
Is that going to be the name of this episode?
What?
Owls and drunks.
Probably not. But...
Yeah, owls and drunks.
No, because we don't, I don't really think that if it were just owls and drunks, I don't think that 70 years later we'd be still talking about this. I don't think that this would be something that has been a story that's been retold. If it was just owls and drunks, it would have died at that. That's my whole thing. But anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to... No. That's fine.
And to some extent, we can place some of this on Billy Ray. Because it is at this point, Billy Ray with the cops and begins to talk about how it's no longer just bright lights that he saw. He talks about how a spaceship landed while he was getting water from the well. His story has now changed. But we know about Billy Ray. Billy Ray's not entirely trustworthy. He's 21, he's young, dumb, but nobody else is agreeing with him. JC's not agreeing with him. Elmer's not agreeing with him. The kids aren't agreeing with him. It's just Billy Taylor running his mouth. Billy Ray is blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, yep, that's Billy Ray running his mouth. So he's part of the reason that a lot of people think this is a hoax, because he's the most generous thing said about him was he's not completely trustworthy.
I see.
But again, he is one adult out of 7. Uh-huh. And everybody else is saying something else. And he's the only one who went out at the time, and his first thing was he saw lights, and lights is what's been corroborated. Lights that went behind a hill. Could be anything. Could be a meteor. Could be a sale at Penny's, and they had a spotlight. We don't know.
It could be, I guess.
So, the rest of the night, after the police leave, the weird creatures, the goblins, return. Until about 3:30 or 4 in the morning, they are shooting these things, keeping them away from the house. Now, brings up another point. A lot has been made over the neighbors. Mm-hmm. And even at the time, one of the people who came to this, and you've got to understand, by this point, this is rural America. The story has got out. So by about 4 in the morning, people are coming by just to see the place and see if they can. And it's at this point someone finds a bit of glowing green stuff on the ground by one of the fences. But it vanished by the end of the day, and most people think it's foxfire, which is a luminescent fungus that grows in the area. Because that's a good description of it. It's kind of greenish glowing. So again, we're going to call that coincidence and move on. So at this point, people start showing up. Now, amidst the looky-loos and the police and newspaper and reporters that are showing up while all of this is going on, there's also people like, hey, I made t-shirts, let me sell them on your property. Or, hey, let me sell cold drinks to people on your property. And eventually, Glennie is just had enough and will go to the front door and yell at people and beg them to leave, to go away. They haven't slept at this point in like 36 hours.
Wow.
They are exhausted, and they just want to be left alone.
Right.
And this is where some people are, again, go back to, well, it's a hoax. They didn't want people there because people would figure out it was a hoax. But if you go by their nearest neighbor, he says he heard like 4 shots. But if you go by different neighbors, some of them heard a young war. Some of them heard no shots. It's just the way sound works. You don't hear every shot, not unless you happen to be there. And even then, I know guys that have been in war and didn't hear the shot that hit them.
Yeah.
So, what happened there? Don't know. But, so we've covered the skeptical take. Owls, drunks, and hoaxing, basically. Now, as time passes, more and more stories are written about this. And these stories is the origin of the phrase, little green men. And basically, these stories are basically reading as bunch of drunk hillbillies get scared by owls they think are aliens.
Right.
So the Suttons and the Langfords, not happy. They're done. They push everybody out. They will not talk to anybody who doesn't pay them an honorarium until months later, when a lady working for MUFON interviews Glennie Langford. Now, Glennie at the time doesn't want to do the interview.
Right.
And eventually she only agrees to it as long as A, the woman doesn't get rude, and B, she's only going to talk about what she saw. She's not going to talk about what anybody else saw, just the stuff she saw. But she's very upset because she says that they have been beaten up in the press. They've been humiliated, ridiculed, lied about. People call them drunks. And Jenny doesn't like this at all. Remember, Jenny's pretty devout, pretty much thinks alcohol is... She doesn't allow them to keep anything more stronger than beer in her home. So she's not happy.
Right.
So she tells the story to this lady from MUFON, and it's the same story they told in the beginning. Weird metal things that are glowing approaching the house.
Right.
Now, Project Blue Book investigated this, and they listed it as a hoax, but they did not comment on it at all. If you go in their files, it just says that the Kelly Hopkinsville incident is a hoax. And that is why this is so controversial, because UFO people who are deep in UFOs think this is a prime example of an invasion scenario. That these are aliens approaching this farmhouse in Kentucky. And that we need to examine it for everything we can figure out. And again, the skeptics will tell you it's a bunch of drunks and owls. And as time has gone on, this has become pretty famous. The Kelly Hopkinsville Goblin is the basis for the Pokemon Sableye. This story is also the basis for the movie Critters. It was also featured in the A&E TV series, Project Blue Book. And yearly, there is the Kelly Hopkinsville Festival, which is around this. So that brings me to my final thoughts on this. For me, I don't think this is an example of anything having to do with UFOs. I'm going to put that out there. Because we don't have any reliable information that UFOs were even seen.
Right.
Not on this occasion. Now, yes, there have been UFOs seen in that part of the world, but not on this occasion.
Yeah.
So the only person who's saying it was UFO is not Lucky, but Billy Ray, and we know about Billy Ray.
Yeah.
We can't trust Billy Ray.
Yeah.
Billy Ray is a lying.
Everyone said was